The night of grandfather's death shook your family to the core. Yet no matter how it happened, your grandfather Gregor Brante is dead and will never return. He was a fearful shadow looming over the rest of the family. The Brante patriarch, exerting his influence on all the lives below him, and all of you will remember him forever. Father is the new patriarch of the family now, yet he still cannot bring himself to sit at the head of the table where Sir Gregor used to preside. Stefan locks himself away in grandfather's bedroom every day. He will not talk to anyone. Gloria and Nathan still jump at every sound that so much as resembles the knocking of his walking stick. Mother spends all day in prayer at the temple. And yet, the house has become calm and quiet with his passing. But there's one more thing that must be done. The final farewell. It weighs heavily upon your soul. The day comes to pay your final respects. Father goes to the tomb alone, save for Stefan, Nathan, and you. Mother and Gloria stay at home. Only nobles or those who may become nobles may join this ritual. There's a solemn silence as you walk to the crypt. Father is the one who breaks this silence when you finally reach the door of the family crypt. Your grandfather built this crypt, and now he will be the first Brante to remain here in body forever. The first ever noble in our family. It is our duty now to hold to the sacrament of the flowing blood of Sir Gregor. We will honor his legacy and join him as the founder of the noble Brante dynasty. Stefan perks up at Father's words. His hands still clutch grandfather's sword. Tradition decrees that it must remain in the niche above the owner's sarcophagus. Nathan, on the other hand, looks even more frightened now. Stairs carved of white stone lead you downward. Deep in the gloom of the crypt, atop a pedestal, you see the sarcophagus that holds grandfather's body. Father takes a moment to compose himself before paying his final respects. Gregor Brante, my father, brought our family into nobility through his unshakable will. He was a judge and a loyal servant to the Empire. He lived his life as if he had been born a noble, and he never strayed from the path he had chosen. He sought to make the Brante family ennobled by the sword, so that our children might be of noble birth. The twins know I abided my father's words all my life, even if I could not obey him every time. Father lets of a bitter chuckle as he says this. Stefan glares at Father, then turns to glare at Nathan, at you. After all, the two of you were born of Father's shameful decision to marry a commoner. All of you remember his disastrous passing. He did not die the true death he deserved, yet we all must know that he fought for the future he believed in, to the very end, and he would be proud to see his family bid him farewell with this sacrament of the nobility. Stefan still glares at Father sullenly. His fingers remain clutched around grandfather's sword. Nathan barely pays attention to the words. He looks around with unease, his arms folded across his chest. Father reaches into his jacket and pulls out a slender dagger, thin and sharp. He takes off his gloves. Watch me carefully, my sons. Make a small cut on the palm of your hand, and let your blood flow into this duct on the wall of this crypt. It will join your grandfather's blood here, and flow forever. Then ancestor and progeny will become as one. We shall enter our family's blood tide, and receive grandfather's final blessing, for his blood flows first in our blood tide. He will respond to you. You are part of him, and he is part of you. With a quick motion, Father slices his hand and holds the bleeding cut above a small opening in the wall. Then he hands the dagger to Stefan. Stefan cuts his hand without hesitation and does as Father did. You receive the dagger next. The dagger's handle feels warm. You hesitate for a moment as you look at the palm of your hand. If you participate in this ritual, you will enter the Brante blood tide. You, a low-born child. A child who is still a commoner. Are you ready to claim your legacy as a descendant of the nobleman Gregor Brante? The eyes of your father and brothers are upon you. Nathan, the youngest brother, will follow your example. You can be certain of this. I can give the dagger back, which will give me some willpower. Robert won't be pleased, but Nathan will like it. I can bleed, because I got the nobleman's sacrament. Robert will appreciate this. I could ask for grandfather's blessing. One of the following must be true. Nobility or... okay. I mean, this one just seems better. And while we are low on willpower, I'd say, let's enter the blood. What is it? Blood pact? Blood... Anyways, the blood tide. I'll ask for grandfather's blessing. Hopefully, he allows it. You grasp the dagger firmly, then quickly drag the blade across your palm. The fresh wound burns on your hand, yet before you allow your blood to join the blood of your father and elder brother, you ask your late grandfather aloud, will he give you his blessing to become a part of him? Will he allow you to join the Brante blood tide? You hear Stefan's indignant sigh. He does not say a word, however. Your words are a token of respect for grandfather and his will. Should you obtain his blessing, Stefan will not defy the late Brante patriarch. Then suddenly you all freeze. Each of you hears your late grandfather speak to you. His voice is loud as it rings in the depths of the crypt, and yet he speaks to each of you separately.
You had the courage to ask me for my blessing. Well, so be it. You deserve an answer. To me, you are not incorrigible.
What? Incorrigible? Yeah, corrigible.
You are half lowborn, yet you may make a worthy nobleman one day. I shall allow you to join my blood tide, but know this, I will be watching you, always, and my shadow will follow you forever. Do not let me down, boy.
Grandfather's voice falls silent. You glance at your father and brothers, astonished. Save for Stefan, everyone else is dumbfounded as well. You have grandfather's blessing. You hold your hands above the opening in the wall. Your blood drips into the duct and flows further into the crypt, as it combines with the blood of your father and brother. Nathan's turn comes. Your younger brother hesitates. Father offers him help, but Nathan shakes his head. Finally, he makes a cut, and Nathan's blood mixes with yours in the duct of the crypt. The ritual is complete. Stefan reverently kisses the grip of grandfather's sword and places it in the alcove above the sarcophagus. Once all is done, you leave the crypt together. Cool, fresh wind blows in your face as you return to the surface. Father stops halfway to the carriage and hugs Nathan and you briefly. Now your blood belongs to the dynasty of Sir Gregor Brante as well. Blood tide has happened. Wonderful. Hopefully that is good. Seems pretty good, I think. The fugitive girl. Grandfather's passing and last respects have left a mark on the entire family. His words relayed from the hereafter keep echoing in your mind. You still do your best to avoid the memory of grandfather's last night and spend more time on the city streets with Thomas and your other classmates. The road by the house reminds you of another clash with death. Sometimes as you walk along that road you recall Sophia. It's a beautiful girl with the wonderful eyes and the terrifying thundering hooves. You have not seen Sophia since that fateful day. The children who live nearby say her parents sent her to a rich Arcanian family, the Autons, as a servant. The sun has set. The pillar shines palely in the dark sky. Thomas is ill, so you decide to visit him and tell him the latest news. The streets seem oddly agitated tonight, full of horses, cloaked men, strange faces, and hushed voices. A young nobleman in a heavy embroidered cloak is walking back and forth, clutching at his sword nervously. There's a grimace of rage on his delicate blue face. He is an Arcanian. You overhear voices. Sir Oton! The girls are not at home. We searched the house. Her parents swear she ran away from home too. They claim they wanted to bring her back. Just do whatever it takes. Turn this loathsome district upside down if you must, but bring my servant back to me. She's here. Sophia ran away from an Archnean? How can this be? There's only one place on the entire street where a person could hide. The abandoned Moral House, 4 houses away from yours. You head there, doing your best not to attract attention. The lopsided house, built of yellow brick, has been abandoned for 20 years or so. You remember playing here there as a boy. You glimpse a figure inside even before you enter. A pair of eyes glimmer in the dark. You would recognize them even after another 4 years. Sophia has grown up. She's almost an adult now, and her face is full of fear. She's not the easygoing girl next door that you remember. She finally recognizes you. Oh, it's you, Brian. Be quiet. They're all looking for me. I ran away from the youngest Autumn. I might be in for a lesser death here, but I'd rather die than spend another day in their slavery. I'm just a thing to them. Just a toy to play with. Sophia winces and closes her mouth as she says this. There's a glint of bright yellow deep in her eyes. I ran to my parents. I told them all about the men I had to serve, and that they went and alerted the Autons. I don't want to be targeted with their ire. But you aren't going to tip them off, are you? The barking and shouting are getting closer. Sophia's voice grows quiet. She runs off to the darkest corner of the house before you can answer. One of Auton's servants is so close you can hear his cloak swishing against the ground. He notices something and calls for the others. There are more voices around you now. They approach the house from the yard and surround it. One of them seems particularly snappy, annoyed and impatient. You've already heard this voice today. If you are in there, girl, you'd best be wise to come out and quit wasting my time. All will be forgiven if you go back to where you were. You know it. And if you don't, I'll drag you out by the hair. The hilt of the young Archnean's sword bashes at the door. He is about to lose his patience for good. Sophia hugs the wall in the dark, trying to stay still. She glances at you. What will you do? Your heart is racing. Can you act against the Archnean's orders? Do you have the gall to defy the mighty nobleman? Let's see, I could hide alone, which will get Sophia embittered. I can't help Sophia flee. I can't bring Sophia back to Autumn. I could try to stop Autumn. Not enough ingenuity, I see. Sophia trusting. Oh, I don't get matters of the heart. Okay. Interesting. We'll try to stop Autumn. We'll help this girl, as we have in the past. You pull yourself together and walk slowly to the half-collapsed doorway. Sophia stays behind. The tall young Archnean stares you down, his condescending smile dripping with scorn. In your most assertive voice, you answer his question. You will find no fugitive girl in this house. What are you doing here, boy? I wasn't speaking to you. Out of my way! Autumn needs no permission to enter, so he steps inside. You stand in his way. You've already assured the young Archnean there's no one else inside. You've done him a great service. What makes him doubt your words? Why, you lowlife! How dare you stand in an Archnean's way? You must have lives to spare. Autumn backhands you with immense strength, enough to send you flying. The Archnean draws his sword. It rises into the air. But then, one of his men shouts, Sir! There she is! The Archnean turns around and briskly walks away. Sophia used your distraction to climb out the window in the back. You jump to your feet and escape the house in the same way. Sophia's slight silhouette is gaining distance far ahead. One of Autumn's men is chasing her down, ready to catch her at any moment. But then something unbelievable happens. Sophia lets out a dreadful scream, and the air around her sizzles with golden sparks. Otten's man falls to the ground, clutching his head. Sophia freezes for a second as though uncertain of what she just did. What was that? She's a witch? Otten screams at her right next to you.
So that's how it is, eh? The wench is a witch! Caesar!
Magic? Sophia's a witch? Sophia's silhouette disappears down an alleyway. Otten's men give her chase, but they will never find her in the dark, sprawling district. You watch her go. Will you ever see her again? The runaway girl becomes the talk of your district for an entire week. You overhear that Sophia managed to flee the city. The Ottens are furious. After this sudden appearance, she disappears from your life once more. You will not see her again until much, much later. Matters of the heart. Wonderful. Brian's in love. How cute. 11:33. Year 1133. Summer. The bloodstained sermon. You're about to turn 15, just one step away from adulthood. Mother's acting anxious at dinner today, barely touching her food. You exchange glances with Gloria. She carefully tells you that she wants to go to the tailor. Mother shudders and her hands clench into fists.
No, don't you dare leave home today. I forbid it. That dirty heretic, Fotis, is preaching his lies under the silver tree today. Twins willing, I don't want you to hear any of that.
You and Gloria glance at each other again. Fotis? He is a patriarch, the head of the clergy throughout the entire province. That is the first time you've heard Mother speak like this about a priest, especially such a high-ranking one. Once you leave the dinner table, Gloria comes to your room with a cunning expression on her face, like she's about to play a trick on someone. She has a plan. The two of you should sneak out of the house and go to the silver tree. You simply must hear the sermon for yourself. What's so bad about Patriarch Fotis? Why does Mother hate him so much? You two are grown-ups now. Surely you have the right to know. You agree with your sister. Together you sneak out from under your mother's watchful eye and hurry to the silver tree. The temple block is full of people from all ranks and estates. There's barely enough room for you to squeeze through the crowd. The crowd is gathered around the very roots of the tree. Gloria suggests that you climb up to the roof of a nearby building so you can hear and see everything better. And not a moment too soon. From the roof you see a tall, silver-haired priest step onto the platform by the tree, dressed in the common black robe that looks far beneath his rank, yet he stands like a noble before the crowd. Behind his back is a banner flapping in the wind, the open book. This is the symbol of the new faith, the crowd whispers. The patriarch holds his hands up to the sky, and the entire temple block grows quiet. He begins his sermon, his vibrant voice rolling across the square. Fotis speaks of a great mistake.
We entrusted ourselves to the lots as the only way to fulfill the divine providence in this world. But for all these years, the will of the twins has been interpreted for us by a single man, Prophetess de Isatius. The twins are ever watching from atop the shining pillar. Of this we have no doubts, but how can we so blindly believe that we truly follow their will by following the lots? Have we not seen the 3 lots of Isatius fail again and again to answer the question of how we ought to live our lives? Have we not seen people change their lot in life again and again without being smitten by divine wrath? Every person born, whether human or Arcadian, low-born or noble, must find their lot and their way to the gods on their own. From now on, we will seek the gods in the accounts of their own lives, in their own acts, in this world, and in their own words as they echo within us. And as we heed the voice of the twins within, we will find their path for us on our own.
The crowd at the silver tree listens to the patriarch's speech in stunned silence. You glance at your sister. Her eyes glisten with tears as she hears Fotis' words. Then suddenly a hoarse cry rises from the crowd.
If there are no lots, does that mean the nobles are gonna till the fields and commoners are gonna bear arms?
A crowd begins to murmur. The patriarch raises an arm and inhales, ready to answer. An odd figure leaps from the crowd onto the platform. A dirty beggar dressed in rags. A knife flashes in his hand. The blade slices, blood starts spreading from Fotis' throat. He then slumps over and collapses. A dark brown puddle spreads across the platform where he stood. Gloria clutches her mouth to suppress a shriek. A few moments of stunned silence, and then the screams begin. The people are frantic. The temple guards try to restore order in the crowd, but to no avail. An old woman dressed in an inquisitor's cassock tries in vain to apply pressure to the patriarch's wound. The nobles draw their swords, dogs are barking, the crowd is pushing and shoving. Children are crying, the entire square by the tree is in chaos. From the roof, you see the moment when the people start trampling each other, howling, praying, shouting. Gloria tugs on your sleeve. Time to go. You climb down from the roof and run. You return home without exchanging a word. Mother's been in her room all the while, so no one noticed your absence. Gloria locks herself in her room. You do not discuss the things you have just seen. They're too frightening. But your parents discuss every little detail of the bloodstained sermon over dinner.
This is unbelievable. A patriarch murdered in plain sight? The gendarmes and the Archduke's guards have searched every corner of the slums, and the murderous beggar has disappeared without a trace. I can't even imagine a more gruesome crime. Fotis has died a true death, never to return from the hereafter.
But how? Why can't the patriarch be reborn? He was so close to the twins.
Such is the will of the world, my children. Once you are granted great power by the twins, there's no hope for you to come back. Not even after the first of your deaths. Emperors, their powerful vassals, heads of the great Archnean dynasties, patriarchs of the church, none of them are destined to be reborn.
Fotis is gone forever. I fear for his soul. It was lost in doubt. Will the twins accept him upon the peak of the pillar? We must pray for the patriarch, children. Let's hope he managed to return to the true old faith before the moment of his passing.
But there's little hope for that. Interesting. The last night. Tomorrow you turn 16. According to Imperial law, you will be a full adult. Your time at Sir Tibor's school has ended. You have studied enough to apply for the Imperial College and learn the judge's trade there. You are to travel to Eterna tomorrow. Your friend Thomas will go there with you to try his luck in the Imperial capital. Mother and father prepare for the long journey.
Remember, son, there's only one goal for you. You must become a student at the Imperial College. Your teachers dragged you through all those books for a reason. You have the knowledge and fervor to be ennobled by the mantle, as I was, and as my late father was before me. But who knows, maybe one day you will be the one to write the name Brante in the blue book and ensure that your children's children will be ennobled by birth.
Then Mother speaks to you carefully. There's worry in her eyes.
But Robert, there may be another path for our son. Stefan, your firstborn, was born a noble. He will surely earn the title for the entire Brante family. Your second son bears the favor of the twins. For him, the path of the priest is a worthy calling, no less than a nobleman's sword.
They've been arguing about your future for a while now. Still, she would never defy the will of a nobleman, and her husband. You smile at them both, trying to placate them. Gloria laughs quietly behind their backs.
Just don't become a snoot like Stefan, and you'll do just fine.
Mother chides Gloria for that. You wink at your sister. Nathan has been downcast all evening. He barely touched his dinner. When everyone gets up from the table, he suddenly rushes over to embrace you.
Please don't go, Brian. Can't you stay? I don't know what I'm going to do without you.
You tussle his hair in response. There's no way you can stay now, you say. But when you come home, you'll tell him all your stories, and bring him a special present from Eterna. This is it. All your lessons have been learned, all your things have been packed for the road. You will leave the family home tomorrow. Tonight is your last night at home before your departure. You walk through the rooms one last time. The sitting room where Mother used to read you fairy tales, the library where Gloria used to spend all her time, Father's study, which you entered only on special occasions, the backyard where you taught Nathan to build towers one summer. The whole place feels so familiar, so dear to you. It feels like home. You lived here for 16 years. Will you ever return? It is getting late. Everyone is already in their rooms. But you hesitate. Father, Mother, Gloria, Nathan. It will be a long time before you see them again. Who will you spend your last few hours at home with? Could go for Nathan. Get some willpower. It's actually not a bad idea. Spend the time with Father. Ooh, 2 nobility though. Ooh. And apparently don't have a good enough relationship with Mother or Gloria to spend time with them. Willpower is pretty good. But 2 nobility is pretty good too, so... I'll spend the time with Father. You find Father in his study reading a book. He has been like this for as long as you can remember. Always at his massive desk, surrounded by books and papers and letters, reading or writing. You enter the study. Father looks up from his book and gives you an inquisitive glance. You want to spend the night with him before you leave. Maybe he can tell you some stories about Eterna and his own studies, or give you some fatherly advice. Father smirks at that, as though he is plotting something.
Have a seat, son.
He reaches into a drawer and produces a decanter filled with a rich, golden liquid.
Barley, whiskey, a nobleman's drink. I think it would be good for you to try it.
Father pulls out 2 glasses and pours a little of the liquid into each of them. You take your glass and bring it to your mouth. The whiskey stings your lips and palate. Father clearly savors the drink. Father tells you a long story about his studies at the Imperial College. He had to study among the sons of the richest nobles from all corners of the land. He was but a commoner back then, and he had his fair share of hardships. When you ask him about living in the capital, he says it was difficult, dangerous, and full of temptation.
You will have your share of time in high society as well. I hope the company of nobles won't lead you astray, son. You didn't go to a boarding school like your elder brother, but I believe a good education and a good family still stand for something. Now, what else can I tell you before you leave?
Father recalls the balls held in the capital when he was a youth. He even stands up from the desk and shows you a couple of moves. Their dancing was incredibly modest, all bows and sidesteps, no touching between the dance partners. But then again, he chuckles, those were the days when a fair lady could steal your heart with a single glance. You nod. If anything, you know that feeling by now. After he mentions dancing, he starts speaking of something he has never mentioned to you before. Stefan's late mother, his first wife, Amalia Elborn. You listen to his every word, surprised by the show of trust.
Oh, Amalia Elborn was the noble bird of prey of Anazote, and the ballrooms were her hunting ground. Everyone thought they could tame her. Your grandfather saw her just once, and then he was off to Baron Elborn to negotiate the marriage. I was impressed by her. I was so proud of myself. And yet, I expected Amalia to be reborn after childbirth. But it did not happen. And when I recalled now, after so many years, I see that the gods arranged it this way. Otherwise I would have never started a family with your mother. Oh, how much I had to suffer for marrying Lydia. But she alone is the true heart of our family.
The sun is about to rise. You should rest before the long trip. Before he leaves for his bedroom, Father embraces you tightly. I'm so proud. You're an adult now, son. You are capable of achieving so much. Always remember that. You get into bed, your head spinning slightly. This midnight talk with Father was about your future or his past. Regardless, it will remain in your memory for years to come. Oh man, look at how noble I am! Dignified, downright dignified. Surely, achieving nobility by way of the mantle is all but a guarantee for me, given how noble I am. You leave the family home for a long time. Your future awaits in Eterna, the capital of the Empire. The end of adolescence. Last night was your final night at home. The carriage is now waiting at the gate, ready to take you to the capital. The clip-clopping of the idle hooves against the cobblestone counts the seconds before your departure. You take one more look at your parents' house and recall your childhood spent there, in the nearby yards at your school, and on the winding streets of Anazote. You clashed with the greater world around you and survived. Well, mostly, aside from that one time. You felt the tingle of emotion for the first time. You were taught by the school and the streets. You explored the city of your birth and learned something of its past. You witnessed first-hand events that will be remembered by history for all time. All of this is yours now, forever. You saw death, lesser death followed by rebirth, and the true death that takes and never gives back. You saw death lying in wait to strike the unaware, like a beast stalking its prey. You saw grandfather's angry grimace lit by the flickering fire of the lamp, the Archduke's cavalry trampling those who stood in their way, and your older brother's bloodied sword slicing through the air. Death has followed you from a very young age, and yet you live on. You have a friend who has been by your side all these years. Thomas taught you many things: how to take a hit, how to keep your word, and how to remain true to your own self. And now Thomas is walking to the same carriage as you, with a heavy bag slung over his shoulder. Your friend will remain your companion for the time being. Ahead of you is a long trip towards the capital and adulthood. For the first time, you will be away from your family and home. What awaits you in the future? And there we go. That's the end of adolescence. Quite an eventful time. I mean, geesh, let's look at all this. We met Thomas, saved Sophia, began school, learned of Stefan's disgrace, had a revelation of the tree, admonished Nathan, grandfather died, there was blood tide, matters of the heart. You experienced your first romantic feelings, and departure from home. Man. We ended it with, I guess decent stats, much less balanced than childhood was. 9 nobility, 3 ingenuity, and 5 spirituality. Willpower has been reduced to 0, and we have died once, so we'll probably want to look into those things. And now, we may continue.